Oh, yeah. See, the people that are lying to you, manipulating, deceiving, misrepresenting everything to you, they're the same fuckers that just took out Iraq and Afghanistan, Syria, for instance. Have you seen the latest footage of what they got done in Syria? Have you seen are you patriotic and support the troops? Because you're selling weapons to everybody down there. It's the same fucking thing. Here's your typical, this is shocking what I'm going to show you next. So the next 5, 6, 7 minutes, I'm going to show you some interesting stuff about your history and about your current history. You're supplying the weapons, and Russia's doing the same thing. Russia's dropping the bombs and supplying the bombs, and America's supplying the bombs to the other side. This is the legacy of the last 60 years. If you're not directly at war, then you're supplying the people on both sides of the war with vicious fucking weapons. Here's what they just done to a city of over 1 million people. Again, this is the third time now in 2 months we've seen cities like this. This is probably the most horrifying video imaginable. And you got to talk about this, for fuck's sakes. Because if not, they're just going to keep doing it. You support your military? But this is what you've done to a city. Wait till you see this little drone. To get like 800 bad guys that you can fit in a couple of these buildings. To get 800 bad people, what you call bad people that you support, that you funded, that you gave the weapons to, that you earvacked other places. Right? Do you think ISIL has those tanks? Do you think America and Russia have those tanks? Now, Israel plays a large part in this. Israel is the 4th biggest weapons producer on the planet. But you just leveled this incredible, massive city to get 800 bad guys. You fucking demons. This is your legacy over and over and over. You went to Iraq and Afghanistan, leveled both of those countries with about 45 million people to get 10,000 bad guys. This city is completely destroyed. You can never live here again. It's totally polluted with munitions and depleted uranium, fucking everything else. You fucking demons. You fucking demons. You sat by and watched them do it. You sat back and cheered them on. You sat there and said, well, we gotta get them, Dana, they're the bad guys. Yeah? But what about the innocents? These people will never recover from what you just done to them. You got 7 million refugees because you won't. This is since Fukushima. 5 days after Fukushima, you went down there into Syria and you haven't fucking stopped. Now you wrecked everything. You wrecked the entire country. How many suicide bombers does it take to do this, I wonder? How many suicide bombers does it take to wreck a city like that? Well, only one. It's called your military. That's a suicide bomber. So, like I say, 5 or 6 minutes of this stuff, we'll get back on track. This is track. This is Patrick Clausen. You're not familiar with who Patrick Clausen is? You need to sit the fuck there and watch what I'm going to show you. For once in your life, sit there and pay your fucking attention. For once in your life, sit there and have some fucking emotions. Have a heart. Have a soul. For the first time in your fucking life. Because the video you just watched, you don't see that, do you? You don't see that. Oh, well, we had to get the 800 bad guys, Dana. You can't say that to my face. You can say it in the chat room because nobody can hold you accountable. You can't walk up and say it to my face. That'd knock you fucking out, for starters.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough.
Tell me about Iran.
And it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran. Which leads me to conclude that it's hard to see how the president can get us to war with Iran. This is the Washington Institute. What planet am I on? Am I on the same planet as everybody else, I wonder? Because this doesn't sound reasonable to me. You know, it's very hard to see how the president is going to get us to war with Iran. Yeah.
Well, just the same as it's hard. How are you going to get to war with Syria? Well, it's easy. We'll make up 10,000 bad guys. We'll go fucking flatten the city, just like we've done everywhere else.
If, in fact, compromise is not coming, that the traditional way of America gets to war is what would be best for U.S. interests.
Typical way America gets to war. Now, he's going to list off how you get to war. It's going to take 5 or 6 minutes. I dressed it up because you got to do that with pigs sometimes. You got to dress them up. But you will find this quite enlightening. This is your history of wars.
Some people might think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, as David mentioned. You may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor.
Think about that.
Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
Well, first off, you were down there pushing them. So they had to lash out. What were they supposed to do? You fucking demons were coming. So when I put this together, I went out and found all these clips and this documentation and lined it all up to tell you the story. This was several days' work to get it together and produce these little tiny clips. But what he'd done, Patrick Claassen, was he listed all your previous major wars and attributed it to false flags. Every fucking one of them.
Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode.
Anti-German sentiment exploded across America. The incensed public put pressure on President Woodrow Wilson to warn Germany to stop attacking passenger ships. The Germans insisted the Lusitania was also carrying ammunition destined to be fired at German soldiers. But decades later, secret British documents confirmed the Lusitania was carrying ammunition. Regardless, the damage was done, and American public opinion turned against Germany. On April 6, 1917, the United States Congress officially declared war on Germany and entered the First World War.
So over and over and over, you'll see Patrick Claassen advocating war.
Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall we had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode.
To take all necessary measures in support of freedom and in defense of peace in Southeast Asia. I have been given encouraging assurance by these leaders of both parties that such a resolution will be promptly introduced.
The Gulf of Tonkin. Now this is where they went down, parked their boat, and allegedly were attacked. And so then they went to war. They went down there, knocked on their door, said, go fuck yourself. When they come out and said, yeah, fuck you. So, well, we're going to come down here and smash your country. And for 9 years, they sprayed Agent Orange, took every leaf and every blade of grass on Earth down there and killed it. They killed every plant, every insect that they could, and then the people too. There's 3 million children with permanent disabilities. There was no reason to go there.
We didn't go to war with Spain until the until the Maine exploded.
Now, Fort Sumter coming up. Think about these days, right? Where people were trying to be civilized, living in big communities, and they can't help it but go to war and destroy everything.
And may I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander at Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack.
So he ordered the exact thing the South Carolinians said, don't do or we're going to attack you, to get to war. So over and over and over, your whole history is predicated upon staged events and belligerence from the very people you're supposed to covet. Why is the Washington think tank saying words like, it's very hard for us to see how the American president can get us to war?
I would like to go over and personally escort our next guest on the show tonight.
Now, this was an old man
There you go.
who had witnessed the assassination.
So if, in fact, the Iranians aren't going to compromise, it would be best if somebody else started the war. One can...
So if the Iranians aren't going to compromise, it'd be best if somebody else started the war. If somebody else would start the war. If someone else would start the war. Somebody else would start the war. If somebody else would start the war. So your whole history is predicated upon deception and misrepresentation and false flags. And so you can't have a country if you continue to do that, which you have. All you ended up with is this public relation firm. Your country's nothing but one great big public relation firm. For war. For misery.